Hi everyone, Leah here. In today's video, I'll be going over the two methods I use to do backgrounds for my webtoon Beneath the Camphor Tree. The first method is what I originally used and still use periodically, but it's no longer my go-to. However, I still think it's a great method, so I wanted to share it in case it could be helpful for any of you. It uses SketchUp with editing done in Clip Studio Paint. The second method I'll be going over today is using software called Snaptoon, which was created, I believe, specifically for making webtoon background images. This is now my go-to method as it is the fastest and most effective method I have at my disposal currently. So a little rundown of what this video is and isn't. This video will not be a tutorial, as I am merely showcasing the methods and steps I take to fill in the backgrounds of my webtoons panels. I won't be showing you how to use these programs in too much detail, especially SketchUp and Snaptoon, as I'm afraid I'm still learning them myself. This video is also not a drawing tutorial. I don't draw my backgrounds for my webtoon. I know, how dare I? I use 3D models for my backgrounds. In particular, most of them are SketchUp models purchased or licensed from Acon 3D, which I'll link below. The reason I use 3D is, for one reason, it's easier and faster, and goodness knows webtoons take a long time to make to start with. The other reason is because my comic is set during a historical setting that actually existed. I wanted to make sure my backgrounds were as historically accurate as possible out of respect for the culture and time that this comic takes place. So I use 3D models made by people with better historical resources than I have, and in turn am able to support those 3D creators by purchasing and licensing their work in my comic. Now that that's out of the way, I'll start with method number one. Method number one uses PNG exports from SketchUp and then import them into Clip Studio Paint. In Clip Studio Paint, I happen to use the EX version. I then edit the file. I then use object files to insert the background images into the relevant panels. Step 1. Obtain a 3D model. This can be done on sites like Acon 3D or in the Clip Studio Paint Asset Store. There are a ton of places online that sell or license out 3D models and various 3D software you can use. I'll be using Sketchup Pro as the models I buy are generally SketchUp files. Step 2. Find the camera angle you want. Using a 3-button mouse is super helpful both with this method and with the Snaptoon method, as 3-button mice make it much easier to navigate 3D viewports. So once you have the camera angle you want, the next step, which is step 3, is to add lighting. So you'll see here I have used sun for shading, and I'm also going to click this button here, which I don't really know what it's called, but it basically applies shadows. And the reason why I wait till after I find the camera angle to apply shadows is it really can slow down your computer when you have shadows enabled and you're trying to move around the scene. So I'm just going to click this and we'll let it happen. Let it do its thing. We'll see how quickly my computer can do it while recording. Hold on. Did it work? It must have worked. Okay, so the problem is that I'm on an inside scene. So I'm just gonna scroll out. Hold on, I'm gonna go out so you can see what I'm talking about. You will see, let's see, why are there no shadows? Let's troubleshoot this. Okay. Oh, it's because I have the lighting off. Okay, well that helps. If I had the lighting correct from the beginning. So I'm gonna just go back to that angle that we had. So that's an important thing. See where it says light and dark? You want to have light enabled to some extent. I usually like to have light enabled all the way and dark not quite all the way. But the problem still lies is that we are inside, and this is why I like SketchUp more than, why I like Snaptoon more than SketchUp, is because, one, I find SketchUp really clunky and just like hard to use and not very user friendly, but also because it's so much easier to do lighting in Snaptoon versus SketchUp, which is like you have to buy all these expensive add-ons in order just to light your scene properly. And so you'll notice that there's not a whole lot of lighting going on in here. It's pretty dark. Oops, why do I keep, It's pretty dark, and that's because it's inside, so the whole building is casting a shadow inside. in order for you to have like lamps going, or in order for you to have, let's change the lighting angle. Yeah, there you go. You need to have light coming in from a window. You can't have a light coming from like a light source from within the house, because, or indoor setting, because you would need, I think, like an add-on for that for SketchUp to do that. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to pretend it's sometime later in the day. And yeah, so I found the camera angle. I have finally managed to turn on shadows and have that work. And we're going to go on to step 4, which is exporting it as a PNG. So there are 2 ways to export with method number 1. The first way is to export the image just as it is, and that's if you want to save time, or you're rushed, or you don't really want to like finesse the image too much. You just want to edit a little bit in post. And so to do that, you would just click File, Export, 2D Graphic. You would make sure you are on Portable Network Graphic PNG. You would name it something like, I always name it something like Simple Cafe 01, I don't even know, PNG, plain, I don't know, raw file, who knows. And then just with this, make sure it's set to a high, like click options, make sure it's set to a high resolution pixel ratio, and also make sure anti-alias is clicked on and transparent background is clicked on. This is really important, the transparent background one. And then just click export, and that is the first way to do it. And I'm just gonna let it do its thing. It might take a moment. My computer sometimes takes a moment to export images, especially if they're high resolution. And then the second step that we're going to do, I'll just talk while it's exporting, is, oh, it's done. The second one we're going to do is we are going to export 3 images from this one. So make sure you don't move around in the scene, or you're going to have to start over. But you're going to want to export 3 files from this one image, or this one view. When the first one is the flat colors, the second one is the shading, like the light and shadows, and the third one is the line art. And this is so that we can have more control in Clip Studio Paint when we're editing the files. So to do the line art, we'll start with that. That's pretty easy. You're going to go to Styles here, and you're just going to click, I have a bunch of different stuff that I've purchased, different things, but you're just going to click one and it'll apply it, or maybe you have to double, yeah, you just click one that, no, I don't really like that one. Let's see. These ones are too,
no, I don't like this. I don't like this one. Let's see. It's fine with like. So these are all drawn because I bought like special ones, but I'm just gonna go to some styles and get a little. Yeah, that's what I want.
default styles. Okay. So there you go. And one thing you can do is if you go to edit and you click on this, you're going to want to make sure this button here, which is like, it looks like in Blender, it's like when you can kind of see through the object, and you're going to want to click profiles. I like undo dashes. I don't know why that's clicked. And I like to bump profiles up to like 2, and that just gives a little more depth. So profiles is important because it gives more like surrounding. And then we're going to go back to shadows, and we're actually going to unclick shadows because we do not want shadows with our line art. So then we're going to export this. Again, same settings, make sure you're on PNG, very important. And we're going to go do Simple Cafe 01. I always like to label my image files so that I can keep track of them. Can't talk. And we're going to call this line art so that we know that it's the line art without having to necessarily look at the file. So that's saved. And then we're going to go back to style. We're going to go back to select. We are going to click, see, it's in Webtoon stuff. I think this is good. Yeah. And so we're going to go back to edit. We're going to turn off edges and turn off profiles because we just want the flat colors. So we're basically turning off line art. And then we're going to go back to shading. And this is actually, remember when at like the previous step, the lighting was opposite how it was supposed to be? That's actually how we want it for flat colors. It just takes away any kind of lighting set. I mean, there's some. If you turn off, no, actually you got to keep it some. But it basically turns off most lighting settings in the scene. So this is just flat color. So then we're going to go to File, Export 2D Graphic. We're going to, again, 01, flat colors, and save it. And that'll save hopefully fast. And then the second thing we're going to do is save the shadows. And the way we do that I have to remember how to do it without a certain kind of preset. So anyway, we are going to go back to, I'm just gonna do it the cheating way, which is to go to this setting, which is for modeling. And then we're going to go back into styles, edit, turn off these. No, that's not what I want, sorry. I'm leading you guys astray. So what you want to do is go to styles, assorted styles, line art. No, that's not what I want. I'm doing an awful job at this tutorial. Hold on. Default styles is what I'm looking for. Oh my god, I'm a mess. Okay, so edit, turn off edges, and then we're gonna go back to shadows. It looks like there's nothing here. There is something there. We're gonna turn shadows back on, and again, it's gonna look like nothing's here. So we're gonna turn the settings back to light all the way up, and this time dark is gonna be all the way down. And as you can see, this is the lighting setup. It's just the shading, just the light and shadow. So we're gonna click export 2D graphic and click O1 shadows or lighting. I always say shadows because that's how I do it. And then we're going to save that. And the important thing is, one, you don't want to move around in the scene because obviously that would mess up the lining of everything up. But you also don't want to maybe that was the only thing I wanted to say. I don't remember. This part's unscripted, so obviously I'm struggling, y'all. So what was the last thing I wanted to say? The last thing I wanted to say was, you don't want to mess with the resolution settings, like with the DPI or the pixels per inch, or like the pixel ratio, because that'll also mess up with the lining of it. Oh gosh, I'm such a mess. I'm so sorry, you guys. Okay, so once you have exported your images from SketchUp, the next step is to edit them in Clip Studio Paint. And I am using Clip Studio Paint EX. That's what I use to make my Webtoon. And what you're going to want to do is open the files here. So if you are only uploading one image, like I said, the option 1 with method 1 was just to upload it like this one, simply as is. And that means it just has a SketchUp. It's one image. It's just one PNG, right? This is option 1. And what you're going to do from here on out is edit the file to your liking. So you're going to add layers. You can, say we wanted something like a dark shadow coming from this, because the characters maybe are sitting here. So you want a dark shadow to kind of, you're going to add like a gradient is what I'm looking for. Is the word I'm looking for. So we're going to hit that to multiply, and then say we want, because light's over here and the characters are over there, we want to add an overlay layer over here. And say we're going to lower the opacity on that. I'm just doing like a really cheap version of it because I don't want to spend too much time finessing this, because it doesn't actually matter too much right now for the sake of this video. But I like to use hard light a lot in my backgrounds because I feel like it adds a nice like ambient glow. So say like there's that. You can also, another trick with Clip Studio Paint is to use the correction layers, which is better than editing an actual layer. It's like a layer that edits anything below it. So say we're going to do a brightness contrast layer. So I'm going to up the brightness a bit, but I'm also going to up the contrast a bit. And then because it's its own layer, this like adjustment layer setting, you can adjust how much it applies to the layers below it. So we're going to do that. I'm going to do another one. So because I feel like it. Hue saturation. So we're going to up the saturation a bit, and that works. And then we're also going to do another one because I feel like it. And we're going to do color balance. This is another one. I'm just showing you the ones I use a lot. And say we want to add make it a really kind of like atmospheric scene, right? All right, so here we go. The next thing we're going to do and I'll show you how to do it with the 3 files in a moment, but you're going to save it. Again, I hope nothing weird, I'm just joking. We're going to save, we're going to save as a Clip Studio format file. And this is very important because we're going to use object files to insert it into our Webtoon episode file. So I'm actually just going to call it 01, and I'm going to call it 011 because we're going to have 2 01s. I should have named the other one like 02, but I didn't think of that. and we're gonna save that. All right, so that's the first option. It's really fast because all we had to do was edit on top of it. The second option takes a few more steps, but I feel like it does kind of create a better image. Possibly, we'll see. So we're gonna open flat colors first, and that's gonna be on the bottom. Then we're gonna click File, Import, Image. Let's see, let's go back. Background files, here we go. And we're gonna click Line Art, and I'm gonna click Control, Shadows. So we're gonna open those two. You're gonna wanna make sure Line Art is on top, like here, Line Art is the first one. I'm gonna select them both. I'm gonna right click, rasterize. You could also do this by clicking Edit, holding, or not Edit, sorry. You can hold them both down, click Layer, and click Rasterize. I can't because I already rasterized them, but that's another way to do it. Then I'm gonna just hide this. So if I hide the two top layers, you can see I just have this. So say there's this, we rasterize it, you're gonna click Edit, Convert Brightness to Opacity, that's anything that's white disappears. So now we have Line Art. And another thing I like to do is click right click, Convert Layer, Vector Layer, I'm gonna say keep original because who knows if I need it, and then click that. And that just makes it a vector layer. I'm gonna make the original layer disappear. This way we can adjust the size of it. So say I wanted it to be like really big. I don't, actually that's way too big. Say I wanted it to be 10, right? I can adjust the line art because, oops, that's not what I wanted to do, undo. I can adjust the line art because it's a vector layer, and now I can make the line art as thick or as thin as I want. But I'm gonna turn it back to 6 because I like that. Or actually, I'm gonna make it 8 because I think that would be good. So now the line art's done. If you want, you can add color to the line art. So you can like make it red, for example, and turn this original line art layer, or the line art layer, to multiply. But I don't usually like to do that because sometimes it doesn't look good. So now we're gonna turn shadows back on, and we're gonna do something similar, which is we are going to the first thing before we take away the white, like take away the do the step we did with the first one, we're going to go to edit, hold on, where is it? I can't not read because I'm nervous. Brightness, contrast. So we're gonna go to, hold on, let me do that again so you can see what I'm doing. Edit, tonal correction, brightness, contrast. And we're gonna bring brightness all the way up. No, sorry, we're not gonna do that. It's been a while since I've actually done this step, and I probably should have. We're gonna turn contrast all the way up. So that's what we're gonna do. And this just makes it so that when we then click edit, convert brightness to opacity, it actually does it the way we want it to do. It does the white, not like gray. And it leaves the black the way it is. Then we're gonna add a clipping layer on top. Whoops, not turn to multiply. We're gonna add the color we want. I'm gonna do something cool. I'm gonna show you guys what it looks like, or I'll do the first one. Sorry, this is rambling. I had a script for this, and I'm ignoring the script because I'm a mad woman, so then we're gonna turn the shadow layer to multiply, and as you can see, it adds a nice like colored shadow layer. And say we wanted to do something like a gradient. I'm gonna choose rainbow because I'm bisexual. All right, so see, now there's like rainbow shadows, which is really cool. So this is just a way you can have more control over where lighting and stuff is. Then you can go back and do more editing, like say we want to do the shadow that we wanted to do before, and say we wanted to do hard light, like this pinkish kind of thing, right? And say we wanted to do, I don't know, I'll do one correction layer because I feel like it's getting tedious at this point. All right, so again, we are going to save as. Again, we're going to save as Eclipse Studio format. We're going to call this one 2 because it's the second one we did. And we're going to save it. And that's the end of method number 1. I'm going to go into detail with method number 2 before I go into how to use object files for your backgrounds. Okay, so I have opened SketchUp, and SketchUp, just a little brief, it's made by, I think, a Korean Webtoon artist. But anyway, it's like this program that does awesome 3D stuff, but you do need to have exported. And I got this on Acon 3D. I got this version of Snaptoon on Acon 3D, and it comes with the SketchUp converter, like the SketchUp add-on that converts it to Datasmith, because I think this uses like Unreal Engine or something. And so you need to make sure you have a file that is open or that is exported as a Datasmith file. So if you're using another a 3D program that's not SketchUp, you need to make sure it can export to Datasmith. But I am just going to delete these because we don't need fire in our scene. I'm going to go to import, I'm going to click 3D, and I'm going to go to my downloads folder because that's where I keep, and I'm going to go to Simple Cafe, the same one, and we're going to load the file. And I will say this, loading files in Snaptoon, not fun. Well, never mind, it was quick with this one. Sometimes it takes a while to load files. But this time it was fast, so I will eat my words and be happy about it. And so here we have the SketchUp file. And again, I'm using a 3D mouse. That makes it super easy. Or not easy, but easier than if I was trying to do this with just like a trackpad. So I'm gonna go back into the cafe. Now the cool thing about Snaptoon, I need to make sure I get the S's, like the names correct of these two programs, is that it's a lot easier to do lighting with. And so let's see, we'll just do it like this. So if you go to light, you can choose sunlight, you can choose where you can see like I'm moving, you can choose the direction of the light, you can choose the color of the light, you can choose the power of the light. So you can choose the light sky intensity. So I'm gonna do it like, I'm gonna do the other side, I think. How do I do this? How do I do this? I say during a video on how to do it. So I'm gonna do it like that. And I'm also gonna add some lights. So you can add lights. I'm just adding a point light. You can, now I find it a little clunky to like figure out how to line it up within objects, but you can do it if you have the time. There you go. So say we're gonna do it like that, and you can change the color of it. So we're gonna do it like that, and we're gonna turn the power down to 250. Oops, that's not what I want to do. 250. All right, there you go. No, I'm gonna do 400. Okay, that's not working. 400. There you go. And I'm gonna turn the range up a bit. I'm gonna turn it to 600. I'm just showing you guys myself messing up all the time. So that's one way you can do it. You can add different kinds of lights. You know, you can add a spotlight. This is probably would be more applicable to that spot. But you know, if you wanted to add a spotlight, then you can change the power and the range and the inner angle and outer angle and the color. I'm gonna turn the power down. And then if you go to camera, this is kind of where the action is. So you can change this with the FOV. I don't know what that stands for in camera language, but you can change the aperture, the focus distance, so you can make it kind of blurry. Hold on. How do I? A lot of this, I just do like trial and error, so you can make it blurry in the distance, but I'm not gonna do that. You can also do clipping distance, although that's kind of, I never use that. Exposure, contrast is a good one to use. Saturation. Oh, if you go to style, this is where you can add line art. So I usually like to bump the line art up to like 2 or 3, the thickness. So you can add line art to the scene. Actually, that's a little too much, so I'm gonna go back to 2. And they've got a lot of settings, so you can do like there's cartoon settings, there's radial blur, which is cool. There's line art, I guess that's line art blur, but I don't want to use that. Bloom is a cool one. Oops, I need to turn this button off. Bloom is a cool one. So that kind of adds like a bloom effect. I'm gonna turn that off too. This get turned off, yeah. There's light fog, which adds fog. There's snow, which will add snow to your scene, which is super cool. And also there is rain that will add rain to your scene. See if, oh, I didn't turn it on, that would help. So it turns rain to your scene. And that is also super cool. And so if we go back to camera, you can also add a color filter. I usually do this depending on the scene. I usually click this to 2. I don't click more than 2 because otherwise my computer hates it. And then I am just going to click picture, and it'll say, if you want to change the save location, you just click here, this little file button. But if you click picture, it'll do its thing in a moment. Yeah, okay, it's saved. And that's about it. That's how I use Snaptoon. As you can see, it's super fast. The only thing I don't enjoy with Snaptoon is how long it takes to like finagle the lighting, because you have to like line it up perfectly for it to do the shadows well. But it's so much faster than using SketchUp and then editing in post. And also it's less like clunky and the lighting is better. So that is the benefit of using Snaptoon. So we're gonna switch over to Clip Studio Paint, and I'm gonna show you, actually I don't think I need to edit this, but if you were to edit this in Clip Studio Paint, you would just save it as a Clip Studio file, just like we did with the other one after editing it. Alrighty, so we're back in Clip Studio Paint, and we're gonna open, so pretend this is our Webtoon file, and we are going to, I'm just gonna erase this real quick because we don't need it in there. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go into the first of the, bring up opacity. We're gonna go into the first panel. We're gonna go to File, Import. This is important. File, Object. We're gonna choose the first one we did. You might get a little window saying it was successful. I don't get that window anymore. We're gonna zoom in and adjust it to where we want it to go. Now the beauty of object files is that we can just reuse them in whatever camera angle is applicable. So File, Import, say it's the next one is gonna be a close-up shot. So I can just zoom in further, and there's no need to finagle with it too much because it's already there. So then what I do, once I have the the thumbnail already done up, obviously at this stage, I have the backgrounds done, I lower the opacity of the background so I can see what I'm drawing, go to my sketch layer, and then I start sketching. So say there's a character here, I'm just going to be like really rough. There's this character here and they're reading a book. This is more like thumbnails, but you know what I mean. So you can just kind of, and then I would, draw them later. And so say it's more like they're really reading their book, and you can just draw them again, but this time they're maybe looking off, whoops, they're looking off to the side, and so they're looking at the camera. So that's a way, that I will do backgrounds, and then I just bring it up and then, bring the opacity down and do the final art on top. And that's basically how I do backgrounds. Now, the reason why, the reason why I like to do object files is that, say, I'm going to save this so I don't mess it up. Say I wanted to edit this. Say I wanted to make it nighttime or something, and, I messed up and the scene was supposed to be at night. So I would open that file and I would basically, I can edit it. Now this is the Clip Studio file, remember? So I can edit it so it's, nighttime. Now this is not like the best example because there's like clearly light going on, but say it wasn't hard to turn it to nighttime. I can save it, and as you can see, it updates. So this is a great way to like update a camera angle or a scene without having to go in and update like every single example of that scene or that panel or that camera angle. The bummer of it is that if you accidentally save it over, like say I wanted to keep this one, and the next one was at night. Well, then I just messed it up because now they're both at night. So what you're going to want to do is when you make your changes, you're going to want to like say I did this. Before you do that, you're going to want to click Save As and click like File Object or Simple Cafe 2 like day. We'll do that. And Save As. And that way it's a whole new file. So then it doesn't update because obviously we've saved it as a new file. So we're going to go back to this one. We're going to click this. We're going to say File, Import, File Object, Day. And it allows you to have multiple files with the same kind of thing. And then that way you can have day and night. And that's again a bad example because obviously this image is for day, like the setup is for daytime, but you know what I mean. And so that's basically how I do backgrounds, and that's basically how I use file objects to make my life easier, because as you can imagine, say this character, I'm gonna go to this, say this character, you know, the next scene down, I'm gonna just show you what I mean. They get up and walk over to the counter. So I'm gonna have another panel down there. I'll just keep it up here. Say I go to File, Import, Create File Object. As long as the camera like direction is the same, as long as the camera file direction is the same, you can just reuse it in many different ways. Now it's not applicable for everything because you know the perspective might be off, but say they go over here and now they are at the counter. I did not have to take another screenshot for that because I can, when I do my thumbnails, keep in mind, okay, there's X many panels from this point of view, there's X many panels from that point of view. I need to make sure these are the panels that, or these are the camera angles that I catch. And then I can reuse them in following panels that use that same perspective or camera angle without having to like redo the background every single time. And so that's just how, one way I save time making my webtoon. So that is just a quick rundown of how I make my webtoon backgrounds, or how I utilize 3D to make my webtoon backgrounds. If you have any questions or have any further topics you want me to make a video on, or to further elaborate with on background making or background utilization for webtoons, let me know in the comments and I will try to put it on the list of videos to make. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment below your thoughts, and I will be back soon. Have a nice night.